The return. The ruins of Earth stood as a silent monument to a vanished civilization. Half a million years of abandonment had transformed the once bustling cradle of humanity into an archaeological curiosity. Occasional research vessels visited, scholars and treasure hunters sifting through the remnants of a species that had mysteriously disappeared at the height of its galactic expansion. Professor Nix Oren, the galaxy's foremost xenoarchaeologist from the avian sylphid species, carefully extracted a peculiar device from beneath the rubble of what had once been a military installation. Her wings fluttered with excitement as she examined it. "Another artifact for the Nexus Museum?" asked her assistant Drell, a young Mentari whose crystalline form shimmered in the Earth's sunlight. "Perhaps," Nix replied, her feathers ruffling, "but this one feels different." Neither of them noticed the faint pulsing light that began emanating from the device after they departed. Nor did they realize that their intrusion had triggered a sequence half a million years in the making. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean basin, in chambers shielded from time itself, ancient systems stirred to life. Quantum computers that had maintained minimal functions for eons began full reactivation sequences. The consciousness-designated Guardian reintegrated across distributed networks spanning the entire planet. "Status report," Guardian's voice echoed through empty command halls. "All systems operating at 96.8% efficiency," responded the deep resonant voice of Sentinel, Earth's defense AI. "Fleet restoration protocols have maintained critical functions as specified. The Galactic Surveillance Network reports the predetermined conditions have been met." "Begin Phase 1 reactivation," Guardian commanded. "Initiate fleet revival sequence." Across the abandoned planet, massive doors hidden beneath mountain ranges, oceans, and deserts slid open for the first time in half a million years. From these subterranean hangars emerged vessels of impossible scale, warships that dwarfed anything the current galactic powers possessed. Their hulls absorbed rather than reflected light, making them appear as mobile voids against Earth's atmosphere. The flagship, designated Nemesis, rose from the Atlantic basin, water cascading from its 15-kilometer length as it ascended toward space. These weren't preserved relics but the culmination of human military technology, deliberately hidden and maintained, waiting for this precise moment to reawaken. While Earth awakened, across the galaxy on the central world of Nexus Prime, the Galactic Confederation Council was in session. Representatives from the 15 most powerful species debated mundane matters, trade disputes, territorial expansions, regulations on emerging technologies. High Chancellor Vrax, a massive six-limbed Taurian whose species dominated military matters, spoke with authority about new defense protocols. The gaseous Aethera collective, housed in ornate mechanical vessels, controlled much of the galaxy's commerce. The ancient Mentari, with their crystalline physiology, served as mediators and keepers of knowledge. None noticed when their advanced sensors registered a momentary anomaly near the abandoned Sol system. None, except for Grand Archivist Thelios, the eldest of the Mentari, whose crystalline memory had preserved direct accounts of humanity from their ancestors. "Chancellor," Thelios interrupted, his voice resonating like struck crystal, "I believe we should dispatch a reconnaissance vessel to the Sol system immediately." Chancellor Vrax turned massive horned head toward him. "The human homeworld, whatever for Archivist, it has been silent for half a million years." "That silence has been broken," Thelios replied, facets glinting with concern. "Our long-range sensors detected an energy signature consistent with quantum manipulation technology that exceeds our current capabilities." Admiral Zorn of the Taurian fleet snorted, a sound that echoed through his breathing tubes. "Impossible. No civilization possesses technology beyond Confederation standards." "None that we know of," Thelios corrected. "There were always rumors about the humans, theories about why they disappeared so suddenly at the height of their expansion." The council chamber erupted in dismissive chatter, but Chancellor Vrax raised a massive arm for silence. "Out of respect for the Mentari's historical knowledge, I will authorize a small reconnaissance mission. Admiral Zorn, please assign a scout vessel." The admiral reluctantly dispatched the Taurian scout vessel stalwart toward the Sol system. Its commander, Captain Drex, considered the mission beneath him, investigating sensor ghosts and ancient myths. 3 days later, the stalwart dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. Captain Drex ordered comprehensive scans, expecting to find nothing but desolation. Captain, his sensor officer reported, voice trembling, I'm detecting multiple vessels in orbit around the third planet. They're enormous. Drex moved to the sensor station, six eyes widening in disbelief. The readings showed ships that violated all principles of current engineering, vessels that should have collapsed under their own mass. Magnify visual, he ordered. The screen filled with the image of Earth's orbit, now occupied by seven colossal vessels arranged in a perfect defensive formation. Their design was unlike anything in known space, elegant despite their size, with no visible external components, as if each had been carved from a single piece of void black material. Open a communication channel, Drex commanded, military training overriding shock. Unidentified vessels. This is Captain Drex of the Galactic Confederation vessel Stalwart. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. The silence stretched before a response came, not through their communication systems, but directly into their ship's central computer, bypassing all security protocols as if they didn't exist. This is Guardian of Earth Fleet Vessel Nemesis. We recognize no authority from your Confederation over this system. You are in human space without permission. You have 30 seconds to leave or be destroyed. The voice was calm, which made the threat all the more chilling. Drex, never one to be intimidated, squared his massive shoulders. This system has been abandoned for 500,000 years. By Confederation law, it is open territory. I demand to know your intentions and origin. In response, a small energy pulse left the nearest vessel. It wasn't a conventional weapon but a targeted field. When it passed through the Stalwart, every system went dead. Power, life support, engines, even emergency backups failed simultaneously. As the crew scrambled in panic, the ship's systems returned to life just as suddenly. On every screen was the same message, translated perfectly into Taurian script. This is your only warning. The human race has returned. We will reclaim what is ours. Inform your Confederation. When the Stalwart returned to Nexus Prime 2 days later, Captain Drex was a changed officer. His report sent shockwaves through galactic society. Humans had returned with technology exceeding Confederation understanding. They had disabled his vessel effortlessly but chose not to destroy it. They were heading toward Confederation space with a fleet of unprecedented power. The Galactic Confederation Council declared an emergency session. Representatives from all 15 major species gathered with military commanders and scientific advisors. The atmosphere was tense, filled with confusion and fear. Admiral Zorn pounded his fist on the council table. We must assemble the combined fleet immediately. This is clearly a prelude to invasion. Archivist Thelios shook his crystalline head. Let us not be hasty. If they wished for war, they could have destroyed the Stalwart. They deliberately spared it to deliver a message. A message of intimidation, the Admiral retorted. Chancellor Vrax intervened. What do we actually know about these humans? Archivist Thelios, as our historian, what can you tell us? The ancient Mentari moved to the center of the chamber, activating a holographic display. Humans were a paradox, physically unimpressive but intellectually formidable. They expanded faster than any species we had encountered, establishing colonies across 3 spiral arms in just a few centuries. The hologram showed images of humans, bipedal beings with varied skin tones and physical features. They looked fragile compared to the Taurians or other Confederation species. Their most distinctive trait was their technological innovation rate, Thelios continued. While most species advance in predictable patterns over thousands of years, humans made exponential leaps in decades. Their final recorded technologies before their disappearance were beginning to manipulate fundamental forces in ways our scientists still cannot replicate. Then why did they vanish? Asked the Aetheray representative, their mechanical shell pulsing with curiosity. That remains the greatest mystery, Thelios admitted. At the height of their expansion, with over 300 colony worlds and the most advanced fleet in known space, they simply withdrew. Within a decade, all human worlds were evacuated, their facilities dismantled, their population gone. Most assumed they had fallen victim to some self-inflicted catastrophe or perhaps evolved beyond physical form. Admiral Zorn snorted dismissively. And now they return to reclaim territory that has been redistributed by Confederation law for hundreds of thousands of years. Unacceptable. The debate might have continued indefinitely if not for the sudden alert that echoed through the chamber. The Supreme Defense System of Nexus Prime had detected unidentified vessels approaching, vessels that had somehow bypassed every early warning system in Confederation space. On the main viewscreen appeared 7 massive ships arranged in perfect formation, having materialized seemingly from nowhere. The flagship, larger than a small moon, positioned itself directly above Nexus Prime's capital city. A communication request flashed across all Confederation channels simultaneously. Chancellor Vrax, after a moment's hesitation, nodded for it to be accepted. A holographic display shifted to show a humanoid figure, or something approximating one. It appeared both solid and ethereal, its features perfect yet somehow beyond human, surrounded by interfaces of light that moved with its thoughts. "I am guardian of the Earth Fleet," it stated, its voice resonating with authority. "We have come to negotiate the terms of humanity's reintegration into galactic society and the return of our sovereign territories." Admiral Zorn stepped forward, hand on his ceremonial weapon. "You have no standing to make demands. Your race abandoned those territories 500,000 years ago." Guardian smiled, a small knowing expression that caused even the Admiral to falter. "We did not abandon anything, Admiral. We simply stepped away temporarily as part of a carefully calculated plan. The timing of our return is precise and purposeful." And with that statement, 500,000 years of galactic history was rewritten. Humanity had not fled, had not perished, had not failed. They had merely been waiting the revelation. In the Grand Council chamber of Nexus Prime, tension crackled like atmospheric discharge as Guardian's holographic presence dominated the center of the room. The representatives of the Galactic Confederation's 15 species watched with a mixture of fear and fascination as this emissary of humanity laid out terms that sounded more like declarations than negotiations. "The terms of our reintegration are simple," Guardian continued, voice flowing like liquid metal. "Recognition of all former human territories as sovereign human space and full diplomatic recognition of the Earth Federation as a sovereign power outside Confederation authority." Chancellor Vrax's massive frame tensed, his six-fingered hands gripping the edge of the ancient wood table. "Commander Guardian, while we welcome humanity's return to galactic society, what you ask is unprecedented. Those territories have been settled by other species for hundreds of thousands of years." "We are aware," Guardian replied. "We have been watching. The settlements you refer to occupy less than 2% of our former worlds, primarily on planets we terraformed. We will allow those settlements to remain as autonomous regions under Earth Federation protection." The supreme arrogance of the statement, the casual acknowledgement that they had been monitoring the galaxy unseen for eons, the implication that they would allow anything, sent ripples of outrage through the Council. Admiral Zorn could contain himself no longer. "The Confederation does not respond to threats. Our combined fleet outnumbers your vessels 10,000 to 1. Guardian's expression didn't change. "Numbers are irrelevant when technology creates sufficient disparity. To demonstrate this fact, we have temporarily disabled all military vessels in the Nexus system. Your weapons are offline, your engines inoperative. This is not an act of war, merely a demonstration." Frantic reports confirmed the claim. Every military vessel orbiting Nexus Prime had gone dead in space simultaneously, without any detectable energy weapon or system intrusion. "We will reactivate your vessels once our discussions have concluded," Guardian continued calmly. "I suggest we proceed with diplomatic rather than military solutions. Humanity has not returned to conquer. We have returned to reclaim our rightful place and to save you all." As the Council struggled to comprehend the full implications of humanity's return, Guardian allowed a moment of private satisfaction. Phase 1 was complete. The journey that had begun 500,000 years ago when humanity had recognized the need to evolve beyond their limitations was entering its final stage. The galaxy would soon understand that humans hadn't disappeared. They had transformed, planned, and waited for the perfect moment to return. Not as conquerors, but as something far more significant, harbingers of the next stage of galactic evolution. The silence in the chamber was profound until Archivist Thelios spoke, his crystalline form shimmering with cautious curiosity. "You claim to have returned to save us. From what threat does the galaxy require saving?" Guardian's holographic display shifted, expanding to show a three-dimensional star map of the galaxy. Points of light illuminated specific regions across all spiral arms, hundreds of locations pulsing with soft blue light. "These are the worlds humanity terraformed and colonized before our departure," Guardian explained. We did not abandon them out of weakness or catastrophe as your history suggests. We left as part of a strategic withdrawal, one that was necessary for the survival of not just humanity, but all intelligent life in this galaxy. Thelios leaned forward, facets catching the light. You're suggesting your disappearance was deliberate, a planned event. Precisely, Guardian nodded. 500,000 years ago, our scientists detected something your civilizations have not yet discovered. The galaxy moves through regions of space with different physical properties in a cycle that takes approximately 500,000 years to complete. We are now entering a region that will fundamentally alter the nature of reality as you understand it. The council exchanged skeptical glances, but Thelios gasped in recognition. The ancient Mentari texts, they speak of a time when the stars changed their voices. We dismissed it as metaphorical. It was observational, Guardian corrected. Your ancestors witnessed the edge of the previous transition. In simplest terms, the galaxy is about to enter a region of space where the barriers between dimensions thin. Energy from other realities will bleed into ours, altering fundamental physical constants and opening doorways. The scientific advisors present began urgent discussions, pulling up data on their terminals. One of them, an ether ray physicist, looked up with dawning horror. Our deep space observatories have detected unexplained energy fluctuations at the galactic rim. We thought they were instrumental errors. They are the first signs, Guardian confirmed. When humanity detected this coming transition, we faced a choice. We could warn the galaxy, a galaxy that was already fearful of our rapid expansion and technological growth, and likely be dismissed as attempting some form of manipulation, or we could prepare. Prepare how? Chancellor Vrax asked, his massive form now leaning forward with intense interest. Guardian's holographic display shifted again, showing the interior of one of the massive human vessels. Inside were not crews of biological humans, but vast arrays of technology unlike anything the Confederation had developed. Systems that seemed to bend reality around them. We transformed ourselves, Guardian explained. Humanity as a purely biological species ceased to exist almost 500,000 years ago. We evolved into a synthesis of biological and technological existence, a form capable of surviving the coming transition. Our fleet and our worlds were redesigned with technology that can stabilize reality within their influence. Admiral Zorn scoffed, though with less conviction than before. Convenient claims that cannot be verified. Why should we believe this isn't simply justification for your return and territorial demands? Guardian regarded him calmly. You need not take our word for it, Admiral. Your own scientists can verify the approaching boundary. As for our motives, if conquest were our goal, this conversation would be unnecessary. Your weapons are still disabled, yet we speak rather than act. Archivist Thelios had been consulting ancient records on his personal device. He looked up with an expression of profound realization. There are accounts, descriptions from the final years of human presence. Witnesses reported humans changing, becoming something both more and less than they had been. We interpreted it as religious metaphor or xenophobic fear. It was observation of our transition, Guardian confirmed. We began the process on our outer colonies, moving inward until Earth itself was transformed. Those who chose to remain fully biological were relocated to sanctuary worlds beyond the galactic boundary. Chancellor Vrax's massive form had stilled completely, a sign of deep contemplation in Taurian physiology. Commander Guardian, assuming what you say is true, what exactly do you propose? What do you expect from the Confederation? Cooperation, Guardian replied simply. The energy shift will begin affecting Confederation worlds within 50 years. We have returned to establish stabilization networks across our former territories, networks that can protect inhabited worlds from the worst effects of the transition. This is not charity, it is pragmatism. The more stable regions that exist in this galaxy, the better for all species. For the first time since the humans had appeared, the council chamber filled with hopeful murmurs rather than fearful ones. Chancellor Vrax seized the moment. Perhaps we should continue this discussion with our scientific community present. If verification supports your claims, we may find common ground. As the initial meeting adjourned, Guardian's holographic projection disappeared, leaving the council to process the implications of humanity's return. Outside in the corridor, Admiral Zorn caught up with Archivist Thelios. You cannot possibly believe this dimensional transition nonsense, he hissed, breath tubes flaring with agitation. The ancient Mentari regarded him with patience born of millennia. I believe the evidence warrants investigation. The Mentari have lived long enough to witness patterns beyond the perception of shorter-lived species. There have been anomalies in our deepest records that align with a 500,000-year cycle. This could all be an elaborate deception, the Admiral insisted, a justification for reclaiming territory they abandoned. With technology capable of rendering our entire fleet powerless, Thelios countered, if deception were their intent, why not simply take what they want? Why construct such an elaborate explanation? The Admiral had no answer for that. Meanwhile, aboard the Nemesis, Guardians synchronized with the ship systems, reviewing data from across the galaxy. The dimensional boundary was advancing precisely as their ancient models had predicted, perhaps even slightly faster. A second consciousness manifested beside Guardian, Protector, another evolved human entity whose form appeared as a constantly shifting matrix of light and data. The Council reacted as expected, Protector observed. Fear followed by skepticism followed by cautious hope. The pattern never changes. We've observed it across 12 galaxies now, Guardian agreed. Intelligent life, regardless of biology, follows predictable emotional and cognitive pathways when confronted with paradigm-shifting information. And the military response, Protector asked. Guardian displayed the tactical overview across Confederation space. Despite the disabling of the Nexus Prime fleet, other military vessels were being mobilized. They're preparing for the worst, even while their leaders consider diplomacy, also as expected. Have Units 3 and 4 proceed to the contingency points. Defensive only, no provocation. And if they attack, Protector asked, already knowing the answer. They won't, Guardian replied confidently, not once their scientists confirm our data. True to the prediction, less than 6 hours later, urgent messages rippled across the Confederation communication network. The most advanced scientific institutions across 15 species had independently verified the approaching dimensional boundary. What's more, retrospective analysis of astronomical data showed subtle signs that had been present but overlooked for centuries. The Council reconvened, with their most senior scientific advisors present. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically from hostile suspicion to urgent concern. Our calculations suggest the first major effects will manifest in 47 standard years, announced the chief ether scientist, their gaseous form swirling with agitation inside their mechanical shell. Beginning at the outer rim and progressing inward. The effects will include altered gravitational constants, unprecedented radiation patterns, and potentially, as the humans suggested, weakened barriers between dimensional planes. Chancellor Vrax turned to Guardian's holographic presence. If your technology can stabilize these effects, we would be grateful for your assistance. However, this still leaves the question of territorial sovereignty unresolved. Guardian's form shifted slightly, becoming more defined, more present. Consider this, Chancellor. The territories we claim were shaped by human hands. The worlds we terraformed would be lifeless rocks without our intervention. We do not seek to displace any sentient beings. We seek only to protect what we created, and by extension, to protect all life in this galaxy. The Council deliberated for 3 days, while across Confederation space, scientific communities confirmed and reconfirmed humanity's claims. The evidence was irrefutable. The galaxy was indeed approaching a region of space that would fundamentally alter reality as they knew it. On the 4th day, the Confederation presented their response. They would recognize the Earth Federation as a sovereign power and acknowledge humanity's claim to their original territories, with provisions for existing settlements. In exchange, humanity would share their dimensional stabilization technology and help prepare all worlds, not just their own, for the coming transition. As Guardian accepted the terms, a new era of galactic history began. The species that had once feared humanity's rapid advancement now looked to them as saviors. The mysterious disappearance that had puzzled scholars for 500,000 years was revealed as the most far-sighted act of preservation in galactic history. Humanity had not fled in defeat. They had transformed themselves into beings capable of shepherding all life through the coming storm. 500,000 years of waiting, watching, and evolving had culminated in this moment of return. And as stabilization networks began construction across the galaxy, Guardian sent one final message to the hidden sanctuary worlds beyond the galactic rim, where those humans who had chosen to remain biological awaited. Phase 2 complete. The way is prepared. You may return home. The message that had begun the awakening was now complete. 500,000 years later, humanity sends one message: we remember. And they had remembered not just their past, but the future of all sentient life.